I challenged myself to beat Final Fantasy IX with only Steiner, and I had some issues. The rules are simple. Only Steiner can kill enemies, heal, or really do anything else. Other characters can only attack themselves, and Steiner can't do anything to progress the game until they are all dead. And finally, if Steiner isn't available, we'll let everyone else take over until he comes back. The full rules are in the Discridly-Doo, so check there if you want a little bit more detail. We start the game by naming Zidane, and we call him Chrono. Steiner isn't yet available, so we fortunately can take advantage of Chrono's unique abilities at the beginning of the game, most importantly his ability to steal. So I steal a Mage Masher from Baku, which will be very useful later. We then hang out with this little mage boy, he tries to get into a show, fails because his ticket is fraudulent, and we call him Magus. And then he just sneaks into the show anyway. Chrono then has a sword fighting scene with Blank as part of the show. It's really important that I do this section perfectly, as it will get me both 10,000 gil and Moonstone, and I get it on the first try. And then we get the first glimpse of our protagonist, Captain Adalbert Steiner, whom we name Frog. And in case you're wondering why, he and Frog from Chrono Trigger have a lot in common. They both are bound to protect a specific member of the royal family, and they are both intensely loyal. And I love them both. We head to the top of the clock tower. There he sees Chrono kidnapping said royal, pursues them, and is viciously attacked. We control Chrono for this battle, and I have them steal Frog's clothes so I can give him back to him later. We fight 2 more battles against him, run away on our ship, and get blown up by a very big bomb, which catapults us into a very angry forest. Once in the forest, the princess gets caught in a jar plant, which constantly drains her health. Unfortunately, we now get access to Frog for his very first battle. But there's a problem. The way this battle is supposed to work is that Chrono immediately goes into trance mode, Final Fantasy IX's version of a desperation attack, and he can use powerful attacks to take out the capture plant quickly. But there's a problem. Okay, I just realized that I said that twice. Whatever, there is a problem. Okay, I can't help that. We can't use him, and Frog can only do around 50 damage per hit. And the plant cures around 25 damage each time it restores health. And there's no way to grind before this battle. I have to use Frog at level 1, and there's no way around it. Not only that, but this plant is fast. For each action that Frog gets, the plant can hit him twice and drain Garnet once. And Frog has to heal Garnet once every 2 times she gets drained, or she'll die. So of course, I don't time things right, and Princess Garnet has all of the life drained out of her. When I finally get the rhythm down 5 or 6 tries in, there's another problem. I don't have enough potions, and since I have to heal Garnet every 2 or 3 turns, I need a pretty big collection. So of course, I die. And I decide to start back from my last save, because fortunately, Frog is not available to be in the party until we fight the first plant, meaning I can use Chrono to steal. And fortunately, the goblins and beasts available in this area have potions available. I steal about 20 of them, and then I head back in. And still, we have problems. Frog's low damage means that he is terrible at doing lasting damage to the plant.
What do you do successfully?
And the plant can do enough damage to him to force him to heal pretty frequently. I run out of potions on one try, get whacked to death in another, but Frog's saving grace is his trance. This triples his physical damage. So I make sure that he's near full health when his trance activates, meaning he can immediately get 2 strong attacks in and accelerate this battle. And just before his second trance activates, he depletes the plant's HP and it retreats into the distance. But that's not the end of things, because plant number 2 captures Magus. But fortunately in this battle, Magus will automatically cast fire, shriveling the plant from the inside out. So with Frog healing and Magus casting, the plant goes down within a minute. The princess, though, is still captured, meaning Frog needs to pursue and rescue her. She's been captured by the big plant, so I grind a bit in the forest to get Frog some more health and strength and head off to shred this salad. And here is where Frog starts to show his strength. The flower blinds him to start, but I have a couple of eye drops, so I'm able to cure off that status and start attacking. Now, the flower does about 1/3 of Frog's HP with each attack, which isn't too much of an issue. However, about halfway through the battle, Blank returns to fight, and that means that I have to make sure he dies before Frog can continue the fight. Fortunately, though, he one-shots himself. Frog then gets a critical with his next attack, and with one more, he's able to blast this bulb. The princess is saved, but the forest rebels against us and petrifies itself. But Frog escaped, and that's really all I care about. We next bring Frog through the ice cave. There's no boss here for Frog to fight, but Chrono fights Black Waltz 1 with his ice pet. With the potion grinding I did, this isn't an issue, so we emerge from this slaughter and head to Dolly. But before that, Princess Garnet reveals that she's jealous of another disguised princess in one of the SNES games from her childhood, and so she adopts the name Marl. In Dolly, I buy 99 wrists for a free money exploit, grab the Stalazio from the windmill, and Magus gets kidnapped. But Chrono and Marl rescue him, emerge from the underground factory in a barrel, and then get poked with Frog's long and hard sword. I think I liked my own dick jokes a little too much. Anyway, at this point, Frog, duty-bound to return Marl to Alexandria, commandeers an airship. But who should rise up to stop us but Black Waltz 2? This boss will attack all party members except Marl with powerful magic and the occasional physical attack. However, each of his spells do only 80 damage to Frog, and at half health he uses a fire spell, which I was quite worried about. And I shouldn't have been worried about it since it only does 95 damage. So Frog whacks him to death, and he learns the minus strike ability at the end of this battle, which will be really useful later. The minus strike ability deals damage equal to how much health Frog has lost, meaning that for physically defensive enemies, it will give him an easy way to do big PP damage. And in terms of Frog's early game equipment, he gets the level up ability very early from his Iron Helm, and that's quite helpful, particularly since he'll leave our party for a while, meaning every experience point is important. But we have no time to get him any experience because the next boss, Black Waltz 3, appears almost immediately, and Magus goes into trance for this battle, which is great because he'll look really cool when he's dead. Similarly to his predecessor, Black Waltz 3's spells are pretty weak, and while this battle is pretty easy, I think it's great that Frog went into trance about halfway through. This increased his physical damage a lot and allowed him to finish off this floating wanker in just 2 more hits and look awesome doing it. Now that we've made it to Lindblum, there are a few things to do. First, we meet up with Freya, the hot rat girl, and I name her Ayla. But then the work begins. The first place we visit is the weapon shop. There, I buy as many steepled hats as I can, and I head to the synthesis shop where I craft as many cotton robes as I can. Then I sell them all for a profit of about 1,000 gil per robe. I ultimately make 99 cotton robes and sell them all, which will take care of most of my money issues until I can do it again. Chrono also competes in the Festival of the Hunt, and I purposely have him lose right away. This means that Ayla wins the tournament and she gets us the Coral Ring, which absorbs thunder attacks. And to celebrate, we have a feast and Marl drugs everyone and escapes with Frog. So they head back to Alexandria, and the rest of the party continues the journey on their own. And since Frog isn't with them, you'll just be getting the highlights. We encounter Quina in the swamp and name them New, and they fight Gizmaluke, who is no issue. I also make sure to grab the Stalazio and Burmecia, since this will get me an important weapon later, and I get effortlessly smashed by General Beatrix. But then we finally return to the princess and the peon, and what follows is a battle with the fallen Black Waltz. But there's a problem, which I feel like you're going to hear me say a lot during this challenge. After killing off Marl, Black Waltz 3 casts Freeze on Marcus. This status prevents action, but also causes the afflicted character to be immediately KO'd when hit by a physical attack. So I hit Black Waltz 3, taking down as much HP as possible. But eventually, Frog gets frozen and shattered, and I die. And I'm kind of worried that this battle was impossible. It's an inevitability that Frog will get frozen at some point in this battle. BW3 has about 1300 HP, and Frog can only do about 150 HP per attack. But I do have a couple of tools I can use to do extra damage. The first is Minus Strike, which I mentioned before. Frog has 450 HP, so I could do about 350 damage with that without fearing death. But even so, I get frozen and shattered time after time. And initially, I thought that Black Waltz is actually programmed to cast Freeze and then physically attack every time. But I was wrong, because eventually it changes up its pattern. It freezes Frog almost immediately, but then casts fire on him, causing him to thaw. So it's all going to come down to RNG. I attack as quickly as I can and get in a few minus strikes, but then he freezes me again and it looks like it's over. But he casts fire again, bringing Frog down to 4 HP. But I'm ready to strike back. I take a big risk and Frog uses a vicious minus strike, dealing a massive 450 HP of damage and finishing off this monstrous mage. Thank Braun, he's dead. I then dally back over to Dally so I can grab more wrists to do the money trick again, and Frog and Marl head on to the city of Trano. There are 2 more Stellatios there, and I grab both before I go to see Queen Stella. And I trade them to her for a blood sword, which is one of Frog's best weapons. This sword drains HP from its target, which will turn the next few battles into a bloodbath, no pun intended. With this weapon, I bring Frog to the weapon shop, where he's able to effortlessly take out the caged griffin. And our reward for beating him is a Tetramaster card, which is lame. Final Fantasy IX's card game is awful. I hate it. But believe it or not, it'll be useful later. So after failing to steal the Super Soft from Marl's old teacher, we hop onto a giant spider and take the trek back to Alexandria. But unfortunately, the spider gets assaulted by a giant snake and we have to destroy it. Fortunately, with the blood sword, I only need to do one thing: hit attack to let Frog take it out. That being said, something else happened in Trano that we should talk about. Frog gained the Auto Potion ability, and you might think that all Auto Potion does is heal, but you'd be wrong. It has a really important effect that we're going to talk about later. Anyway, Frog slices this snake to bits and feasts on its carcass, and both he and Marl get captured by a couple of terrifying clowns, ending their frivolous frolicking. With Frog and Marl incapacitated, the rest of the party infiltrates a big tree. They fight the antlion first, and that's no issue, and then Beatrix. And Chrono steals a very valuable ice brand from her, which Frog will be able to use later. Nonetheless, she effortlessly smashes the team into oblivion a second time, and Queen Braun destroys the city of Clayra with a big horseboy. Frog, though, is back in Alexandria chillin' with Marcus, and the Queen, who is clearly an experienced dominatrix, has locked them both in a cage. But they're not into it, so they break free and join the rest of the party to save Princess Marl. But before we do that, there's another battle Frog needs to try out. This book monster has a funny gimmick. It has huge defense initially, but once you deal between 150 to 200 damage to it, it opens up to reveal that he's actually a lumpy space prince. Unfortunately though, with only Frog, this battle is hopeless. The book can cast Doom, which cannot be blocked and immediately defeats Frog. So while I would love to have this item, I move on. And specifically, I move on to the chamber where Princess Marl has been captured. And there, I fight the 2 conniving clowns, Zorn and Thorn. In this battle, they pass off the power to use powerful spells to each other, and attacking the one who gave the other a power invalidates it. I think that's how it works anyway. But I don't really care about that, because Frog's blood sword can easily heal off the damage they deal, meaning I don't even need to bother. I just attack until one of them dies, and I rescue the princess. But there's a problem. I need another thing to say when there's a problem. But there's a boblem, because our opponent is General Beatrix. Frog has to survive 10 turns against her to win. I first go in without changing any of Frog's equipment. Frog survives Beatrix's first shock attack, meaning it appears that I have a chance. But she uses her second one in quick succession, taking him out. The second try, he survives shock number 1, but once again gets taken out by shock number 2 because he hasn't healed enough. So I decide to reload my save at this point and equip him with the Coral Ring. This will allow him to absorb Beatrix's Thunder Slash and potentially survive shock more easily. And this seems to go well in the next try. Frog survives the first shock, and then a Thunder Slash and his Blood Sword heals him to full. And then a second shock does over 1,000 damage, which is a one-shot. And for the next bajillion tries, Beatrix continually hits Frog with shock attacks that he can't possibly survive. But it's just a matter of time before RNG is in our favor, because on try number 9, Beatrix's first shock attack does 910 damage, and so does her second. And then she ends the battle with a devastating Clim Hazard, which, despite bringing Frog to his knees, means we've won. And do frogs have knees? I don't think they do, but it's a figure of speech. But then the Queen sicks some Bandersnatches on the party. The first on Ayla and Beatrix, which they easily dispatch, and then a second pair on Frog and the party. After slaughtering his comrades, Frog does the same to 2 pairs of Bandersnatches and 3 Black Mages, having no trouble because of his blood sword. But even better, he gets a chance for revenge, because he heads back to help out Ayla and Beatrix. But instead, he gets his revenge on the pretty lady, killing her and her rat friend and taking out both Bandersnatches on his own. own, and his diversion provides enough time for the rest of the party to escape. And so begins the party's quest on the outer continent. And since Frog isn't around for this part, let me just give you the highlights, okay? They fight a big old snake, reunite with New, fight a vicious bounty hunter, ride some giant spiders, infiltrate a dwarven green card scam, chill with Magus's doppelgangers, and recruit Aiko, whom we name Scala. And then we cavort with some Moogles, burn down an evil tree, recruit Amarant, whom we name Robo, and watch Marl's mother get torched by a dragon. And rightfully so, because she's kind of a dick. Now back to business. I make sure to win the card tournament. This gets me a rebirth ring, which will be crucial later. But after that, Kuja attacks the city, bringing some delicious undead buggies for Frog to whack. So after slashing Beatrix, we make Mistodon Marmalade, which gives a ton of experience catching Frog up with the rest of the party. And once again, Frog goes MIA, which is in fact a good thing, because this gives the rest of the party a chance to defeat Tantarian. But of course, they die. The second try though goes much better, and I'm able to kill him and acquire the spoils from the battle, the running shoes. These will teach the auto haste ability, which I will definitely want for some later battles. So after watching a castle get destroyed by the eyeball ship, we are given a treat, a boat. And listen, don't buy a boat, but if a regent offers you the use of a government-funded boat, please use it. You don't have to maintain it. So we bring it to the Black Mage Village and then head to Kuja's hideout. But on the way, Frog has a teensy issue, and that teensy issue is a big worm. And that big worm reduces his HP to 1 and then destroys him with Demi. So the next time, I just avoid that battle and head into the furthest sand pit, which causes the party to get captured by Kuja. And here is where things get interesting. I have to choose two parties. One party will go to Oggleburps and the other will stay in the Desert Palace. But since we're only playing with Frog, he must complete both sections independently. So I start by sending Frog to Oggleburps. But before I can even get there, I get taken out by a couple of rogue cactuars, and then again by a couple of slugs. But once we get to Oggleburps, I do two things. First, I make sure that Frog has the clear-headed ability equipped. And second, I sell all of my potions. This will allow Frog's auto potion ability to use high potions instead of regular ones. It uses the least powerful potions in his inventory. And I mentioned earlier that auto potion has another effect. It also slows down the flow of battle, which will be really important when we get the auto-regen ability. And again, we'll talk about that ability a little bit later, because our next challenge awaits us, the giant skyboat Ark. Yes, I finally get to express my hatred of boats by wrecking one. Its boomerang attack does nothing after a high potion, its whirlwind attack is in the same position, its propeller wind's confusion is blocked by clear-headed, but it does have the photon attack, which brings Frog down low enough that there is some danger. But again, Auto Potion makes things much safer, and with his Minus Strike, Frog can take advantage of this teensy slight. And with one final Minus Strike, we put an end to flying boats. Which makes me happy, because boats are bad. Don't buy a boat. But now that we've grounded the Ark, Frog has to deal with the Desert Palace. So I reset, fight through Oggleburps with a different party, and we blaze through the Desert Palace, grabbing all the Bloodstones along the way. And then we fight Valiapira. But I make a big mistake here. I equip the Ice Brand. And normally that would not be an issue, except I missed a Bloodstone. The Bloodstone that completely disables elemental attacks, meaning the Ice Brand, which of course does ice damage, is completely disabled. And because of Frog's auto potion ability, along with his newly acquired chemist ability, which doubles potion healing and allows him to heal up to full health after every attack, I can't even use Minus Strike to circumvent this problem. And even more funny, Valiapira can't even kill Frog because it can't do more than 900 damage in a turn, which means my only choice in this circumstance is to have Frog kill himself, which he can't do because I have him equipped with the Medane's Ring, which absorbs ice elemental damage. So rather than wait for my high potions to wear off, I just reset and try again. We'll call it a death, it's fine. But this time, I show just a tiny amount more intelligence. Not much, just a little bit more. And I equip the Diamond Sword instead of the Ice Brand, which means that this time, the invincible Frog is able to easily dispatch the Valiapira. And I feel better now. After defeating Kuja, he kidnaps Scala, so to prevent him from extracting her summon magic, we head to Estogaza and enter Mount Goulash to thwart him. And I make another big mistake here. I get into a fight with a couple of asshole ghosts and they cast Doom on Frog. And since he can't run away expediently, his timer runs out and I die. But I wipe the dried slime off of my back and continue on, vowing to get in as few battles as possible from here on out. But there are a few mandatory battles in Mount Goulash, most notably with a couple of dragons. They have powerful wind attacks, but with Auto Potion and Chemist, Frog's high potions deal 900 HP apiece. So he kills one and then gets into trance, boosting his physical damage to 300% and whacks the other one. And the second set of dragons go down just as easily. But once we've dispatched him, we have our next challenge, Zorn and Thorn's combined form, which I call the Blobmeister, or BM for short. The BM's main trick is hoping that I forgot to turn off auto battle, which I did, which means my non-froggy characters attack and I have to let the party die. Big sad. But on attempt number 2, I realize his actual trick, casting the virus status on Frog, which prevents all EXP and AP gain. But not gaining experience doesn't mean that Frog can't kill him. The BM quickly strikes Frog into the trance range, which removes all status effects and allows him to triple his physical attack damage, dealing over 6,000 damage per strike. So he gets dispatched rather quickly, and we not only rescue Scala, but also the Regent Sid's wife, Hilda. She returns Regent Sid to human form, which grants him the mental capacity to build another airship, the Hildegard III. And the best part about this is that he destroys his boat to make it. You see, he regretted his boat purchase too. Don't buy a boat. And we take our new airship to Ibsen's castle, a place where weak weapons are powerful and powerful weapons are weak, and where I once again accidentally have Freya attack and have to reset the game.
I don't think.
So after flatulating myself, which is probably not what you think it is, we head on to the boss of this palace, Taharka. This boss switches between two forms, an open form, which has high attack and low defense, and the closed form, which has sky-high defense. However, with Auto Potion and Chemist, it's virtually impossible for either form to deal any kind of meaningful damage to Frog. The worst offender is Blizzaga, which deals over 1,000 damage. And to add insult to injury, Frog enters Transform, massively boosting his damage. And despite this monster's high defenses in closed form, Minus Strike does great damage that is completely unaffected by stance and allows Frog to scorch this scorpion. And with his death, the pathway to the 4 elemental guardians open. Frog and Magus head off to fight the Wind Guardian, leaving Nu and Chrono alone to fight the Earth Guardian, which they're able to do after a few tries thanks to Nu's Limit Glove ability, and this allows the crew to head to Shimmering Island and into Tera. So we fight through the mini gauntlet, which is difficult for Chrono and the other crew. Of course, I accidentally have Frog attack before Nu is dead in this battle, which is very embarrassing. But on the retry, Frog starts his battle close to Trance and one-shots Bug Boy. But while bugs are no issue, Kuja's dragon presents a problem, namely its powerful wind attacks. And while Frog slowly gets whittled down by the combination of physical and wind attacks, the real problem is its Twister attack. This wind attack does semi-random damage and can put out some huge numbers. And this one does over 2,500 damage to Frog, and I die. But on my next try, I make sure to keep my HP above 2,600 at all times. This ensures that I will not die from Twister and I destroy Big Bird with ease. But Garland is next, and he is surprisingly a bit of a pain. Garland's attacks are a lot more powerful than I expected. Most of them do over 1,000 damage to Frog, with his telekinesis removing over half of Frog's health. And when Frog goes into trance, yeah, I die. But the solution to this battle is very simple. Get good. Garland has many counterattacks, and I'll have to trade some of my damage for healing at a pretty high HP level. But do I learn this the second time I fight him? Absolutely not. I have a tendency to go all out when Frog goes into trance, and because of this, once again, I die. And then I die a third time. So I need to change things up. And what I change up is that I equip Frog with the running shoes, the ones I got from Tantarian. These yield the auto haste ability, which I can use to get in a ton more attacks. I also equip him with the Man-Eater ability as well as the HP plus 10% ability. He already had the HP plus 20% ability equipped, but this will just make him even even more bulky, and right away I make a huge mistake. I attacked New, but the dragon got a move in first, killing them, and because New was dead and I attacked a party member, Frog's attack changed targets to himself. But on the repeat, I kill the dragon and get to fight Garland again. And my new strategy is quite successful. I show a ton of caution, and once Frog enters trance, I burn a trance turn to heal him with an elixir. Garland's flare then doesn't do enough damage to threaten him. My 2 attacks each do maximum damage, and Garland yields to his protege Kuja. And Kuja, well, he tries, and I respect that. But Frog's defense gloves have all fire, thunder, and ice damage, and since these elemental spells are Kuja's main form of damage, he can do very little to Frog. And with a few thwacks, Kuja goes down. But not to be bested, he enters Transform, casting his Ultima spell, disabling the party, destroying Tera, and opening up the domain of Memoria, our final destination. Without doing any further preparation, I head on into Memoria. And as you've probably guessed, this was a mistake, because on entering Memoria, Frog needs to fight another dragon. And while Auto Potion and Chemist do a great job keeping Frog at reasonable health, the dragon's physical attack manages to do over 2,600 damage, wrecking our rusty amphibian. And on a second try, things go equally badly. But with one change in equipment, I go from flop to on top. I equip Frog with the ribbon, which absorbs wind and water attacks, and most of the dragon's attacks are wind and water based, meaning the dragon now provides Frog with a ton of healing, about 3/4 of the time it attacks, in fact. And with this new advantage, I die. Because the dragon still has physical attacks, and I didn't think about that. But once again, I have a solution. This windy wyvern is vulnerable to blind, so by using a tent on him, I can blind him with a tent snake, making him far more likely to miss. Granted, it takes several tents to make this happen, but once it does, the danger is mitigated quite a bit. And once Frog gets into Transform, his attacks do maximum damage, allowing him to take out the dragon in just 4 hits. And with this dragon dead, we enter the final boss gauntlet, the refights against the 4 guardians. But before that, I head to Daguerreo to grab a few necessities. First, I grab the Aegis Gloves, which will negate fire damage. I also get the Carabini Mail, which I probably should have acquired before. This will grant Frog the auto-regen ability, which will enhance his self-healing markedly. And then I head back in to fight Malyrus. And once again, I make a mistake here. It's nothing big, just a little teeny mistake, that makes me die and stuff like normal. Malyrus can use powerful fire spells, which I do negate, but she can also use the Mustard Bomb spell to inflict the burn status. If a character inflicted with this status acts, they immediately die, so I have to wait for it to get healed off. Oh, and also I forgot to equip those Aegis Gloves, so, I don't absorb her fire spells, which is bad. So anyway, as you might expect, the burn status gives Malyrus enough time to completely destroy Frog, even with auto-regen running. I didn't think that through. So before I fight her again, I equip the Body Temp ability, which will make Frog immune to burn, and I actually equip the Aegis Gloves, and I try again. And with these changes, the battle feels much easier. Because Mustard Bomb has such a long animation time, that allows more time for auto-regen to work, and any fire spell has the same effect since Frog is immune. This means that this battle is only really dangerous if Malyrus gets a critical hit. Oh, and there's one more thing that makes this battle dangerous. Malyrus casts a powerful attack when she is defeated, but fortunately Frog has enough health to survive it, so we're finally through. But the pain has only just begun, because the next boss is Tiamat. Tiamat's trademark is casting Absorb Strength to absorb Frog's strength and add it to his own. And once he's done that several times, he can easily one-shot Frog, which he does the very first time I fight him. And the second time, he even hits the damage cap. So I ultimately decide that now is the time to grind. As usual, my target is Grand Dragon since they give some juicy experience. So I get Frog up to level 63, equip him with Auto Haste, Auto Regen, and MP attack, and I head back in. On the way, I use the random encounters here to build up Frog's Trance Gauge, since that will increase the damage he can deal. And while I die several times to random encounters on the way back to Tiamat, which was frankly embarrassing, I eventually reach his platform and fight again. And my first attempt is a failure. He takes down Frog with his first 2 offensive strikes, but on the second, I get Frog's trance up and he reaches the damage cap with his first 2 attacks and then dies to a physical attack. But he wouldn't have died had I just kept those Aegis gloves equipped. Apparently Jetfire is a fire attack, and that's why he was at such low health to begin with. So I re-equip those gosh darn gloves, and I also equip the counter ability. And let me show you why. I open with a regular physical attack, and so does Tiamat. This brings Frog into trance range, and because of that counter ability, he now hits for 9999 damage without his trance gauge depleting, and then his next physical attack also maxes out. Tiamat wastes his turn with an MP absorb, and I hit damage cap a 3rd time. And then he wastes another turn with absorb magic, and I hit a 4th time for max damage. Then a twister connects, and this is the 2nd time he's done damage all battle, and I hit a 5th time for max damage. At this point though, Tiamat finally casts Absorb Strength, but it's too late because Frog's next attack does over 5,000 damage, finishing him off in just 7 hits. Thank God. But the pain of my idiocy isn't over yet, because my next opponent is the Kraken. I equip Frog with the ribbon again to absorb water attacks, which works well. The Kraken can also cast the blind status as a counterattack, but all of its other attacks are completely ineffectual. Water God heals Frog, and he's immune to freeze. So I turn on auto battle and I auto win. But now we're on to the most frustrating boss of this run and the final obstacle before Excalibur II. Okay, the final obstacle for most people, but there's actually another obstacle after this, which is kind of funny. It's kind of funny. I'm stupid. Anyway, let's move on to the Lich. And the Lich is awful because his mainstay is casting instant death attacks. So let me show you how I built Frog for this battle. I chose the most powerful weapons, the armor doesn't really matter, and for add-on, I selected the Rebirth Ring since I hadn't yet mastered Auto Life. For abilities, Auto Life because it's the only way to counter instant death spells, and Auto Haste because that will let me attack more quickly and potentially see fewer instant death spells. MP Attack to do more damage so I can kill Lich quickly and see fewer instant death spells. Devil Killer to do more damage so I can kill Lich quickly and see fewer instant death spells. Do you see a pattern yet? Well, there are a few more abilities I need. Locomotion to prevent the stop status, which counts as a death in this game, and Antibody to prevent the venom status, which counts as a death in this game, and Auto Float because Lich uses earth attacks. And even with all of these tools, I still have some huge problems. Problem 1. After Frog gets hit with an instant death attack, Frog gets left with 1 HP and he can be killed with a physical attack. Problem 2. Even after Auto Life activates, Lich can just cast Death again. Problem 3. He can also cast Doom, which is basically death. Problem 4. I can get close, but then I run out of MP, meaning I need to heal or I'll just start doing less damage. But I eventually figure out the solution for this one. I just use an elixir before the battle starts. Problem 5. Lich's Death Cutter ability has a random chance to cause the Doom status. Problem 6. Frog can just miss his attacks. And Problem 7. All of those other problems just again. So basically, this battle is just an RNG nightmare. I need Lich to cast no more than 1 instant death spell, I need him not to hit me with a physical attack when Frog is at 1 HP, and I need Frog to hit for as much damage as possible. So here's what happened. It was an interesting choice, certainly. That's a wasted turn, great. That's a wasted turn, great. That is, oh, miss! That's a wasted turn. That's 4 wasted turns in a row. Get some critical, Steiner. That's 5 wasted turns in a row. Just a couple more. Just a couple more. Oh, miss! Okay, I gotta elixir up and just hope he doesn't cast death. Miss? Okay. Okay. Ah! Ha ha! Finally, we've made it through this battle and I move forward to the next area, but then I realized something. I didn't get the sword! Oh my God. I got there and then forgot about it. I'm going back. I'm going back. I'm going back. My God. The most important freaking sword in the game. Yeah. I completely forgot about Excalibur II. I don't think you can understand how embarrassed I was then and how embarrassed I am now about being embarrassed about an item in a video game. It's a lot. And if you want to make me feel better and you have a little bit of extra cash, I would really appreciate it if you became one of my Tantacles. Those are my channel members who for $5 a month get to see my videos early and provide amazing support to the channel. And of course, thank you to those who are already supporting the channel with a membership. But if you're not flush with cash, liking the video and subscribing to the channel really help my content reach more viewers. And if, like me, you just hate doing things, you don't really want to click the like button or the subscribe button, thank you for watching this far in the video. That's the most important thing that you can do to support my channel. So, thank you. Before we move on, I do remember to equip Excalibur II, which is Frog's strongest sword. I don't really need Auto Life or Auto Float anymore, so I give him back Auto Potion, which again will heal and slow down battles, and Auto Regen. And the next battle is against Death Guys. And I'm gonna be honest, for all the terrible luck that I had during Lich, I was so relieved at this battle. And I was relieved because I lied to you before.
Back rolls.
I actually did need the auto life ability. Lich can use instant death abilities, but for whatever reason, he just doesn't, and with Excalibur II, he gets taken down very quickly. Trance Kuja is next, and this fight has no gimmicks. It's just damage against damage. But it's not without risk. Kuja's flare attacks can still do a ton of damage, but Frog's trance is pretty close to being ready, so it activates very quickly. This allows Frog to hit for max damage 4 times in a row, causing Kuja to use his ultimate attack and bringing my characters into the final battle against Necron. And because he can inflict status effects, I re-equip Locomotion, Antibody, and Jelly, and I head on in. My other characters are auto-revived, so I take them out first. And right away, Necron hits Frog with a blue shockwave, bringing his HP to 1, but I heal him up with an elixir. But then it's time for Grand Cross, the spell that can inflict literally every status effect in the book, including Death and Doom, which would be terrible. But instead, it inflicts Silence and Sleep this time. And while I'm not thrilled about that since it means Frog is going to take a couple hits, he next gets hit with a Neutron Ring, which lets him wake up and keep on swinging. Another blue shockwave takes his HP down to 1, he hits twice, and then Necron casts a blue shockwave 2 more times in a row. But then Grand Cross hits again, and I'm dreading the result, which is nothing. It does nothing. No status effects inflicted at all. So Frog strikes once, no dice, and then a second strike brings down Necron, putting an end to whoever this guy is. And if you want to see more Final Fantasy challenges, you should click this playlist.